All right, welcome back to another episode of the Empowerful Health Podcast. My name is Dr. Jeremy Kerrigan. I'm a chiropractor, and I host this podcast teaching you how to take better charge of your health and life in general. Today, we got a great guest on, Francis. Thanks for being here, Francis.
Thank you for having me.
Francis is a coach. He kind of specializes, if you will, in transition times. You know, as people get 55, 60, thinking about the next stage of life, people going through divorce, people trying to avoid divorce. He does some marriage coaching. His wife is also in the realm of coaching. She has a background in trauma, helps coach people working through trauma, and they kind of synergize pretty cool.
So we work together well.
Excellent. Good. We're going to talk about a really cool topic today, and one of my favorites. It's something I've described before as what I call the moment of panic, when life takes a very unexpected turn. And what do we do in those situations? So Francis has got some really cool experiences he shared with me. He's going to share with you today. And we're just going to talk about those types of situations when life takes a hard right and we were expecting it to go left. What do we do, and how can we not just survive those moments, but thrive through them and get ourselves?
Absolutely. And before I became a coach, you learn through life, simple life lessons, making mistakes, growing. You put it all together and you start to understand more as you get older. I could never do this 10, 20, 30 years ago.
Sure.
And it takes me back to when I was a kid. I had an amazing mom, taught me more lessons than you ever would know. I take them today, the wisdom. It just gives me chills thinking about it. But my mom also was a little bit of an enabler. And I don't mean that as a put down. She meant well, but sometimes she would say, oh, no, it's okay. It's okay. Right. And my dad would be like, no, it's not okay. He's got to do it. No, it's okay. And, I grew up in a loving, happy family. But I was an innocent, moral kid. And I went to high school, and it was a shock. Sure. It was a shock. I was a kid like, all right, I'm a good little skinny kid. And what happened was I started, and within a month of the first freshman year in high school, I got bullied to a level that I can't even imagine. It wasn't really physical. I mean, only once I remember, someone grabbing like 9 books and slamming it on my head. But other than that, it wasn't physical. It was just pure mental anguish. And I remember I got through the whole first year just being as weak as I could. Like, oh, sorry.
Keep your head down.
Yep. And it was horrible. And then I got to my sophomore year, and I remember asking, hey, would you please not do that? And, oh, sure, no problem. Then 10 minutes later, doubled down. And it was, later in high school, it started to calm down. But I remember being at my buddy's house, and we used to love basketball, still love basketball. And we were watching a game, and I think maybe soda was downstairs or something like that. I was like, oh, grab a soda. So I went downstairs, and I saw the weight bench. And I was as skinny as you can get, as weak as you can get, innocent, good kid, but, not a lot of self-confidence, not a lot of physical strength, so be it. And so I saw the weight bench, and I was like, let me try this. Maybe I can do it. It didn't look like it was a lot of weight. It wasn't. It was 63 pounds at bench press. And I went on and I got it up, and it went on my chest. And I'm like, all right, now. And it didn't move. So I panicked. And so I slid it down, got it to my stomach. I was like, all right, I'm going to basically, like, my guts are going to come out.
Cut you in half.
Cut me in half. Got it to my hips, got it off. And I was like, heart beating, I got it off there and somehow got it back. And I was like, ran back up, like act like nothing. Like, oh, yeah. He didn't even think they were watching the game. No one thinks, and
right.
And I went home and I thought to myself, I'm officially weak. Sure. And my father bought me a weight bench at a flea market. And so I said to myself, okay, I'm going to do something simple. I never did this before. And it's never about empowerment or taking action. I wasn't that guy or that kid, so to speak. And I said, I'm going to lift 3 sets of 10 bench press. I did other weights and other things, but regarding the main piece was 3 sets of 10 at 63 pounds. And I'm going to do this every 3 sets of 10 every other day until I can do it for 5 times. So it would take 10 days, right? So every other day, 5 times. After 5 times, that next every other day, I'd go up 5 pounds. So I'm not going to deviate, but I'm not stopping. I will not stop. And I did it and did it and did it. And then a couple of years later, I eventually got to 285 pounds. Now, I didn't do 285 pounds, 3 sets of 10, but I was able to get 280. Yeah, I couldn't get to the 3 I wanted, but it doesn't even matter. People can lift 400 pounds. Yeah, that wasn't the point. The point is you're taking a kid, no self-esteem, no belief, nothing, bullied at levels that were horrifying.
Sure.
When I think about it, it's just horrible. And I was able to get to that point where if you can lift 285 pounds, at least you're strong, right? Yeah. I'm not saying, Mr. Muscle, but I was strong. And I went out, and this is after college. It doesn't matter, but I kept myself strong, and I was out with a few friends. And one of the guys that used to bully me was there. And it even wasn't the main guy or even the rotten one. It was actually not a bad kid, but it's easy to jump on. The kids try to think they're cool and say, hey, I'll pick on you too. Now you got 30 people picking on you. And he was in shock, and he looked at me. He's like, holy cow, you're so muscular. What happened? And I was, I could have been a jerk, and I wasn't. And I was like, no, yeah, I just work out. Things are going well. Got a good job. College, how are you? Fantastic. 5 minutes, very superficial. Nothing negative, just, normal standard conversation. I walked back, and it dawned on me. All that work changed something.
In you.
In me. Yeah. That work mattered, that I'm not going to be bullied ever again. And not in an angry, no one's bullying me again, I'm a tough guy. No. That I now believe in myself. I did the work, and now my life's different. Sure. And every single time in my life, and I ain't going to need to go through them, it'll take forever, but that was the first one.
I want to hit on this just a little bit. The difference was in you, and when we're being bullied or picked on, I had not as bad, but I had similar experiences. Yeah. I was a scrawny kid, 6 foot tall, weighed 135 pounds, I was picked on, made fun of in high school, all this. And the problem comes is when we start believing it, right? And we think
I believed it.
They're right. We start labeling ourselves as weak, or scrawny was a big one I used on myself a lot. And it's that difference that you made wasn't in what other people thought. You couldn't control them.
No.
You couldn't make them stop.
No.
There are tools, if kids are struggling with other tools, things the schools support, things like that. But really the bigger difference is what could you change within you? And it's cool that you had that, pretty dramatic experience getting stuck under a barbell to be able to push yourself. And then that determination next was, now what? I didn't like this. What can I do to make it different?
After years of, I hate this, there's nothing I can do. And the thought that this is who I am, nothing I can do. To, I can't take this, I got to do something. Right. And that was the catalyst to think differently for the rest of my life. And when I do it, it's great. And when I don't, it's not. And you mentioned it earlier. You got to remember again what works.
We rarely learn new things in life in this aspect. We have to remember, remember when I was successful because I did the things, maybe I should do the things again, But
exactly.
it was that determination to do it. You had the desire, but then you had the consistency. You made the efforts to make that a different situation. And that's where people fall short. They're like, oh, I'm weak. I'll go to the gym, and it's hard the first time, and they get distracted, and they don't go back. And it's like, well, no, you're not going to see progress in a day. You're not going to see it in a week, and you may not even see it in 3 months.
Correct.
But if you're consistent.
In fact, you probably won't.
Right. You may, in 3 months, you're going to see at least some difference.
But you're not going to probably be where you want to be.
So you're not going to go from 63 pounds on the barbell to 280 in a short period of time. That's going to take a long time to build that up. But if we don't try, we're never going to get there.
Right.
That's the key. We're never going to make a difference in
the I tell people, I say, if I gave you a lottery ticket for free, 100 balls in a pot, and I'm going to give you a free lot. You don't have to pay for it. I'm a free lottery ticket. And if you get the right number, 1% chance, you win $100 million. You're rich for life. Just making money for fun. It's not that it's important, but it's fun, right? Easy way to explain it. You're going to be $100 million if you get the right ball. It's a 1% chance. But what if next week I give you, and you lose, you don't win.
Sure.
The next week I'm like, here's another free lottery ticket. And then the next week, here's a free. Every week I give you a 1% chance.
Sure.
Eventually, I don't care. It might be 6 months. It might be a year and a half. But I will tell you, at some point, you will win.
Sure.
And that's why I tell people is if you're doing the right things.
Right.
I can't tell you it's going to be tomorrow, but that's like a lottery ticket for 1% for the week. eventually at some point you're going to turn around and say, wait a second, it's been 8 months and I'm now here? How'd I get there? Well, you got there because you did the right things over a course of time.
And I like to I want to hit on this because I think it's related.
Yeah.
Like you mentioned your goal was to get to 300 pounds.
It was.
And you didn't get there.
I did not.
Which could on the outside look like, oh,
failure.
You failed. But you didn't. You made immense amounts of progress in that. And so often we look at like, we set a goal and we're like, I'm going to be here. And we don't get there and we beat ourselves up over it. And then we don't try anymore. And it's like, no, that's not, you missed the whole point.
Exactly.
The whole point of life isn't to get to a spot where everything's good. The whole point of life is to keep moving in a good direction. Yeah, to progress, to improve ourselves, to get a better relationship with ourselves and then other people. And so I like that point, like doing those consistent things. Maybe you're not going to get where you thought you were going to go, which is, again, the whole point of today's podcast. But you're going to get somewhere pretty cool and you're going to make progress and learn in yourself. And even you're going to learn skills that help other people. This story you're sharing has probably helped a lot in your coaching sessions when you're talking to people.
Yeah, because like then I think about you. It's a perfect point. You say 300 pounds I didn't get. But really, what was the ultimate goal? Self-respect. I'm not going to be bullied. I'm going to utilize this for the rest of my life to change my life. The 300's the number.
Sure.
But all the others actually was the gold standard.
Right.
And so you did win. You know what I mean? So sometimes we want to quantify everything to a specific measurable because we're built that way, right? I want to lose 8.2 pounds. Well, if you lost 8 pounds, I understand you didn't get 8.2, but you're doing good.
Right.
And it's the same thing. And so, but it bleeds into other things. And that's the thing. If you're working on improving yourself and putting that work forth over time, you don't realize that all the spin-offs that you'll get, you think, oh, here's my goal if I get that. Well, reality is if you work at that, you're going to get another 100 different benefits you didn't know.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, we like to make it complicated and look for big, fancy solutions. We were talking about this before we went on the air, but like diets, we're looking for the latest trend and this new complicated diet that's going to solve all our problems. But people have been losing weight for millions a year. I mean, maybe not millions, but people have been losing weight for a long time before this fancy new diet coming along. It's just simple principles.
Yeah, I tell everyone else. I'm like, I tell my clients all the time. I'm like, everyone's looking for new information. What's the new cutting edge idea? Sure. I'm like, sometimes old fashioned amazing wisdom is the answer. Stick with it. And like I say, I tell people all the time, like if it's 1960, you think, no one ever lost 10 pounds in 1960. Sure. They had to wait 40 years for the new fad.
Right. Well, and like I was going to say something on this. I lose my train of thought occasionally, but this idea of, go back to the bench press example, like you didn't do some complicated, fancy exercise. You just
bench pressed. And I did flies and a few other things, shoulder. I mean, it was
simple things.
Simple basics.
It wasn't easy. It took consistency. It took dedication and work. But doing the simple things over long periods of time makes a much bigger difference than some big fancy thing that we burn out on and then we don't fulfill. We don't finish doing. Right.
And by the time I was able to lift 80 pounds, which was not that long because, you figure starting close to it, I already felt like, oh, this is going somewhere. Sure. And that's what I tell people. If you're in your marriage, marriages are about to fail that I work with. And I tell them, do this, and they come back like, oh, it started to work. But then they'll have that big fight, like, see, it didn't work. I'm like, no, you're just getting started and you've already made progress. But that didn't mean you're never having a fight again.
Absolutely. I tell people with health all the time when I'm like helping, encourage them along the healing pathway. I'm like, the direction we're going is so much more important than where we're at. Right. If we start here at, ground zero and we're 10% of the way there, we're still on our way there.
Exactly.
Versus because people give up, I'm not making as much progress as I wanted. But you're making progress. Like, yes, there's things I can suggest. There's other simple principles that'll help maybe speed that up. But as long as we're continuing to move in the right direction, just keep going. Yeah. Right?
I tell everyone you will get there. You just don't think it because it seems like this big job. Right. Impossible. I'll never do it. All I say is chip away, and then it'll actually be a lot quicker than you think. You think it's just a 20-year job. Not really. Not even close to it. But you think that. But once you start getting progress, it starts getting quicker.
Right. And I love that concept because I think it ties into our topic really well. Those moments of panic where life kind of takes an unexpected turn, it can make us feel like we're really far from where we want to be.
Oh,
and
yeah.
we can be really far from where we want to be. I remember what time in my life I had this big vision of starting my own practice.
Yeah.
I've been out of school almost 2 years. I'm like, this is what it's going to look like. I'm going to see this many people. And I had a huge vision of it. It didn't happen overnight. It took a lot of work. And I got very discouraged at some points because where I was and where I wanted to be were so far apart. It was hard to see that clear path. But as I did the little consistent things, taking care of the person in front of me, doing my very best job to be the best chiropractor for who was here, even though it wasn't very many people to start with, it grew. Those people told other people, and it just continued to go. And those success principles didn't happen in 6 months like I thought they would. They took several years, but I still got to a much better place than I would have otherwise.
And think about that. I mean, you're excellent at what you do, obviously. You have a great and successful business. You're helping people. But as we speak, even yourself, right? There were times you're like, is this going to work? And here's the thing. Everyone goes through that.
Sure.
Every successful person has gone through that feeling like maybe it won't work.
Sure.
And you're like, really? They thought that? How that successful person thought that? Yeah, because the only difference between them and the people that didn't get to where they wanted to was they're resilient.
Sure.
So they're like, I just always tell people, you don't work hard to succeed. You work hard to fail, to work hard to fail, to work hard to fail, to work hard to succeed. Sure. You literally have to go through the process. It's not a one and done thing. It's a one and continue until.
We think that success looks like
Linear.
this, and it's this like roller coaster and zigzags all over the place.
Until you get there.
Yeah. And the cool part though is like the more we have do even little successes,
right,
as we focus on those and we use those to propel us forward, we gain this confidence. About a year ago, a friend who runs a really successful business, has a number of employees, he asked me, he's like, and very earnestly said, when do you stop being scared it's all going to fall apart, And I paused for just a second. I'm like, I'll let you know, like,
yeah.
I said that jokingly, but I got to thinking about the question for a couple of days, and I called him back up and I said, I have a better answer for you. And I said, I don't think that stops. Life, it takes unexpected turns. You just don't know what tomorrow's going to bring.
For sure.
I have a very physical job. I could break my arm tomorrow and not be able to do what I do.
Right.
So there's so many factors that go into it. I said, my confidence doesn't come in, is it safe? Is it going to not fall apart? My confidence comes in, if it falls apart, I can do it again.
Right.
I've done it before. And like your experience as a teenager taking charge, that gave you confidence. And you've shared with me before, but it's helped in other ways, right? What other experiences have you had? Like, what other things have you done because you had that confidence?
Sometimes I've had this idealistic idea that life, you work hard and life is perfect, right? Because I had a great childhood, so life's perfect, right? Well, that's not how it works.
Right.
But what happens is that you can't allow that to turn into life can't be great. It can be amazing, but it's going to have some ups and downs. So when I went through life, I've learned the greatest lesson is that when I would go through some of the most difficult times in my life,
Sure.
you ever get to that feeling where you almost like have to touch your hand? Like, is this happening to me?
Right.
Am I literally going to be getting divorced when I said I would never get divorced? Or am I really losing my job? Or am I really this or whatever? Like, is this happening? I literally would get to the point where I'm like, I cannot believe that like this isn't a dream. Like, it's real. Those times is horrible. And I mean horrible as it's been. And I'm not trying to, I understand like my life is overall, I feel very happy and blessed. But I understand some people go through things that are, 100 times worse than what I've gone through. But we all go through our difficult times.
Those kick in the gut experiences where the floor falls out from beneath you
100%.
and you just don't know where you're at anymore.
Every time in my life so far that I have gone through one of those moments, like I cannot believe this is happening.
Sure.
It has been the greatest thing in my life. I look back and say, I cannot believe that happened and it led to this. Every time.
And it's so cool to be able to look back and be like, hey, that crappy thing that happened to me, I'm actually grateful for it.
Grateful for it.
Because it led me here. And yeah. And we can all experience that. Like, again, you said lots of people have some really, really hard struggles
really
that
tough
I'm
stories.
so glad I don't have to deal with. And then there's some that I've dealt with that I'm glad that other people don't have to deal with too. But like, it's not a competition. All of
No.
us have hard experiences and things. And if we can look back and be like, okay, where did this lead me? And not necessarily be grateful for it. I had a little trauma as a kid. I had a brother that died. And sometimes I've actually been able to say, not I'm glad that he died,
Right.
but I'm grateful that his death has taught me some things and
It-
given me some skills
It's
and
given you
abilities.
something.
And given me opportunities to learn and do things in hard ways.
Yeah.
Losing someone at an early age led to some other
hard.
challenges. And those challenges have forced me to work on myself. Forcing me to work on myself has taught me things that I can then share with other people who are going through,
Which can affect your
challenges and
children, affect the
struggles.
people you work with. Yeah.
You're able to sit down and share a challenge with someone and have them feel like someone understands. You see that like relief and that relaxation
Yes.
go on because there is someone. So many people feel like they're the only one who isn't where they want to be. They're the only one messing stuff up. They're a failure. They're this,
Yeah.
they're all these negative things. It's not true. And if we could help them understand that and understand that, hey, there's potential. There, start moving.
Yeah, I mean, you've got to normalize life. Like life is life,
Absolutely.
and so people
Life
that
is
go,
life.
I'm a failure. I got this.
Right.
You're not a failure. The only thing is, are you willing to toughen up,
Sure.
work hard, get told what you need to hear, put the work, put the good ethical purpose behind it, and be willing to fail until you get there. And if you are, that whole journey, which is ups and downs,
Sure.
is empowering.
Right.
It changes everything because you're going for something and you start saying, eventually I'm going to get there. And that, even when you don't fully get there, that process is incredible. Halfway through, you're like, wait a second, I'm going to have this. I'm going to have, like, I see it coming.
Well, you're able to look back and be like, look what I did, I had one last experience I want to share.
Yeah.
Last week, I got to do 2 major hikes. I went to Zion National Park. I did a 10-mile hike one day and about a 6 or 7-mile hike the next day. And first hike's called the Subway Trail, and you have to like rappel down places. You have to swim through freezing cold water. Like it's a pretty intense hike.
Yeah.
You go about a mile an hour on the hike. The second hike is Angel's Landing, which is pretty well known. You're going straight up on this like ledge. The trail is about 5 feet wide at one point, and it's on top of like 2 sharp drop-offs,
Right.
And so going up there, like it was hard. Like I was scared of heights. There was a lot of challenges and struggles, but I wanted to hit on this one thing. As I got all the way up, I had to stop several times. I had to lay face down at the top to kind of breathe, recenter myself. But when I got done with the second hike, I felt an energy and an excitement like, dude, I just accomplished
did it.
something pretty cool. Like I was skipping. I had like so much more energy than I felt in a long time because I did something really hard
I'm proud.
and survived, and this is just a physical example, hiking. But when we go through hard experiences in life and keep going and working on ourselves and keep that resilience, we're going to get to a point where like, I did something awesome. And
Exactly.
it's going to help propel us forward through the next hard thing and the next one and
It
help
is.
us actually live more life and thrive versus just surviving. Because that's what we get. We want to just survive. We want to hanker down
Right.
and like hold on. And there's a point and place for that, but it's a short-lived one. Once we've hunkered down for a minute, start taking steps.
You have to
Make an
take
action.
steps because you know what? As we get older and we go through life can hit you hard and you get to a place where you're exactly right. You start just holding on to what you have, afraid of losing, when you have to actually let go and say, you know what? I don't know what's coming, but I'm going for it.
Sure.
Because that's the only thing you have is that ability to go for it, to feel good. If you're in defense mode, like, please, I don't want to lose one more thing, you're always going to start feeling in fear base. You're declining in your mind. But if you're going for it, everything changes. It's a whole different experience when you're propelling forward, even if you're failing along the way, because you'll eventually get there. Whole different atmosphere than, I think it's fading out. You don't want to do that.
Well, I feel like a good example of this is a ship, right? If the ship has holding on to its anchor, it's not going to go anywhere.
Right.
And we do that. We anchor ourselves by the past experiences, past traumas, baggage, people we may have lost,
Sure.
all this sort of stuff. We hold on to that, and it's this weight holding us down. And it takes work, professional help at times to be able to let some of that go. But as we let that go, we actually do what we're meant to, and that's propel forward and experience new things and learn new things.
Definitely.
See new vistas and stuff.
Definitely.
I really appreciate you coming on. I feel like we could go on for hours on this topic.
I love it.
We'll wrap it
love
up for today.
Yeah.
But what's with your coaching business? Tell us just like how people can find you. What's the name of your business? What's your website?
Sure,
that kind of
absolutely. Just a quick overview. My wife's amazing, Dr. Peca, wonderful person. She helps people through trauma. She obviously has her doctorate.
Sure.
She is, what separates her from everyone else is the fact that she has a heart. I'm not saying no one else has a heart. I don't mean it like that, but she just is inviting and she's vibrant and she's alive and she's warm. And so people connect. They feel good. So they're able to open up. Now she can work her magic. And with me, we're completely different. We're a great team, but we're not the same. And that's great.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm hard on my marriage coach. I'm a marriage coach for the most part.
Great shooter.
I tell people exactly what they need to hear and strong. I don't tell them what they want to hear. I tell them what they need to hear. And I do it with strength. But here's the thing. And this is why I feel so connected to what I do. I do it with my heart. And so if I tell a story as I'm telling you, even as you don't notice it, but even as I'm telling you these stories, I feel a little water in my eyes. But I will feel it. I believe and I want my clients to succeed so they can accept that tough message. It's not like, oh, this guy's just a jerk. And so that has really been amazing in saving marriages. And there's nothing more fulfilling than watching people fail and then succeed. It's the coolest thing. And so you can reach us. We're a growing space. So www.agrowing.space.com, or you can call it 623-202-4553. That's my number. It goes directly to me. I run the business along with my wife. I take the call. Anyone can always call for free. I can give you a whole overview of how it would work if you were to go with us. We're not like others. We're very unique. So we believe in what we do, and I appreciate you having me here.
Yeah, thanks again for being here. So that's A Growing Space is the name of their practice.
Yes.
Glad to have you. Grateful for this topic. It's very timely. I know a lot of people in the last few years and currently are experiencing those points where life turns. So hopefully you found this helpful, and join us again for our next podcast.
All right.
Thanks,
Thank
Francis.
you.